5 days after Rayshard Brooks was shot and killed by Atlanta police officer Garrett Rolfe, Paul Howard, the Fulton County District Attorney, announced an 11-count indictment against Rolfe, which includes felony murder.
The possible sentences for a felony murder conviction would be life without parole, or the death penalty.
According to District Attorney Howard, Rolfe shot Rayshard Brooks twice in the back as he was running away, with one of the bullets piercing his heart. A combination of available video, including police body cameras, shows Officer Brosnan approach Rayshard Brooks, who's asleep in his car, in an Atlanta Wendy's drive-through line just after 10:40 p.m.
What's up, my man? Hey, come in. Hey.
Officer Brosnan wakes Brooks up and asks him to move his car to a parking spot. A few minutes later, Officer Rolfe is on the scene, starting to question Brooks.
Your Honor, hey, I just got something to eat. I went to visit my mother's gravesite. I'm not causing any problems.
Brooks is given a breathalyzer.
Just take a deep breath in, put your mouth over the mouthpiece, blow as hard as you can until you stop. Blah, 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 stop.
The officers then give Brooks a number of other field sobriety tests, and at this point, Brooks is doing everything he's told to do.
3, 4, 5.
Asking if he can just walk home.
I can walk home. I don't have to.
Why would you walk home?
I just don't want to be in violation of anybody. I can walk. My sister's house is right here.
Then everything changes when the officers decide to take Brooks into custody.
I think you've had too much to drink to be driving. Put your hands on your back, boy. Here, put your hands on your butt. Hey, stop fighting!
As Brooks begins to fight, there's a struggle over Officer Brosnan's taser.
You're gonna get tased!
Brooks wrestles the taser away and breaks free. Officer Rolfe gives chase with his taser in his right hand, but then, watch, he switches the taser to his left and draws his gun. Meanwhile, Brooks, while running, turns back and fires the taser he took from Brosnan at Officer Rolfe. Seconds later, Rolfe fires his handgun and Brooks falls to the ground. Brooks was taken to the hospital but died during surgery.
All right, we've got a special guest joining us tonight, co-counsel for the Brooks family. He's also a partner at Stewart Miller Simmons Trial Attorneys. Justin Miller is with us. Justin, thanks so much for joining us tonight.
Thank you for having me. Thank you.
What can you tell me about Rayshard's family? Number one, how they're doing, and number two, who his family is, because I really haven't got to know them yet, and I'd like the viewers to understand who his family is.
Right. So his family is doing okay. I mean, given all the circumstances, it could be much worse. But, you know, they go through good times and bad times like anyone else. He had a wife, Tamika, and they had 3 beautiful daughters and a son. And, you know, the son is going through his own things with his father being killed. The daughters, they're very young, and so they're all dealing with their own issues. And his wife, I mean, she's handling it pretty good, but she's you know, the same way any other wife would be. You know, some days she's good, some days she's bad. So, you know, it's just a moving thing, and we just try to help her out and help the family out any way we can.
Not easy when you've got all those children and so many needs. I can't imagine. Looking at the case, the original prosecutor on the case was Paul Howard. He lost re-election. There was a new DA, and I'm wondering right now if the DA is in communication with the family and with you all on the status of the case, because this one we've been tracking. We're trying to see, well, what happens next? What happens next? And we're kind of been waiting here. Do you have any idea?
Right. So we met with the DA about 3 weeks ago with the family, well, some of the family. And she basically was going through what was happening procedurally, which is she's tried to recuse herself from the case because of apparent or alleged improprieties on the part of Mr. Howard's office. So she tried to give the case to the AG's office. The AG's office sent the case back to her, said there are no improprieties, or the improprieties are such that you can continue the case. And so that's where we are right now. We're waiting to see what her next move is, because at this point, she has shown that she does not want to prosecute the case, but we don't know where the case is going to go from here.
Okay, we're watching the video right now, and I've watched this video many times. And I'll be honest, for me, this is a close call. This is one of those stories and cases that should probably get in front of a jury to figure out what's right, what's wrong. From your perspective, what should police have done here or not done? Because we watched the beginning of the video. He's under arrest for DUI. From my viewing of the video, he appears to resist and take a taser from one officer and fire that taser. So explain to us from your position what you believe police should have done, what they did wrong, et cetera.
Well, in my opinion, there are three different parts to this thing. So you have the first part where he was stopped and they approached him in the car. That went without incident. They even asked him to move his car, indicating that if they thought he was that intoxicated, why would they allow him to get in his car and move it to any place other than where it was? So they let him drive his car. That's one incident. That incident went fine. The second incident was when they decided to arrest him, and he struggled and he fought with them. And that incident didn't go fine. And if something had have happened at that time, I don't really think that he would have had a case. But that's not when something happened. They allowed him to run away, as you see on the video, and he got away. So that was the second incident. The third incident was him running away. And as I'm looking at the video right now, it's just bringing back a lot of memories. You can see him firing the taser. And when he fired the taser at the officer, over the officer's head, he was about 10 feet away. At that point, he got another 8 feet away from the officer. So he ended up being about 18 feet away from the officer before the officer fired his gun. Now, I don't know about you, but a person who is 18 feet away from you and running in the opposite direction is not something that scares me. And if I was a police officer trained, to deal with those situations, it definitely wouldn't scare me.
Now, one of the other issues that's been brought up is that he has a deadly weapon in his hand, a taser. But I know that's one of the issues. Is it a deadly weapon? Is it not a deadly weapon? We've heard it described both ways. At that point, is it your position that police should allow him to get away, or get him later, or just continue the pursuit, knowing that he was allegedly under the influence and has this weapon in his hand?
Well, there are a couple things with the weapon. Number one, they knew the weapon had been fired 2 times, and those weapons can only fire twice. So he fired the first time during the struggle, the police officer fired it, and then the second time, Mr. Brooks fired it. So that's 2 firings, 2 discharges of the weapon. That means the weapon is no longer serviceable. Okay, at that point, you're still moving forward to chase him and to get him. He doesn't have a deadly weapon. You've patted him down. You know what he has on him, unless you don't value the job that you and your fellow officer did. So you knew he didn't have a gun. He fired the taser twice. He's running in the opposite direction from you. I don't really know what kind of lethal threat he poses at that time.
Well, Justin Miller, I was concerned about the family. I know they're in good hands with your representation. I appreciate you coming on and giving us that side of the story, and I hope that we'll talk in the future again about this case as it develops.
Sounds good. Thank you for having me.
All right, folks, let's take a look. We're tracking this one, but no trial date. And as Justin explained, there's a new DA in the case, and we're waiting to find out what that next step is. Of course, once we find out, we'll let you know right here.